Number 8. One of the most misunderstood signs of high intelligence is the ability to be alone. Not just tolerate it, but genuinely enjoy it. While society often equates being social with being well-adjusted, intelligent people tend to carve out solitude as a necessity, not a preference. For them, alone time isn't empty, it's full. It's when their thoughts are loudest, their creativity flows freely, and their sense of self becomes sharp and grounded. Highly intelligent individuals often have rich inner worlds, places filled with ideas, questions, possibilities, and self-reflection, and being alone allows them to fully explore that world without interruption. They're not lonely, they're engaged in deep internal dialogue. While others might seek external stimulation to avoid boredom, intelligent people are stimulated by their own thoughts. They may spend hours reading, writing, planning, or just thinking. No noise, no distraction, no social media required. This comfort with solitude often makes them more emotionally independent. They don't rely on constant validation or companionship to feel complete. They're introspective, self-awareness, and capable of regulating their emotions from within. That's not to say they dislike people. In fact, many intelligent people form deeply meaningful relationships, but they also know the value of protecting their energy. Shallow conversations, crowded events, or mindless socializing can drain them, while time spent alone often restores them. In solitude, they reconnect with their purpose, creativity, and clarity. It's where they solve problems, process emotions, and recharge their inner battery. This is especially true for deep thinkers and creatives, who often find their best ideas come when they're away from the noise of the world. So if you've ever been told you're too quiet or too distant, or if you've ever felt guilty for choosing a quiet night alone over a party, remember, this isn't weakness or social anxiety. It's a reflection of a mind that thrives in stillness. Intelligence often blooms in silence, and solitude is the space where that growth becomes visible. If you're comfortable in your own company, that might be one of the strongest signs that your mind is not only intelligent, but also deeply self-connected. Number 7. If you're someone who overthinks every little thing, conversations, decisions, what someone meant by a look or a text, there's a good chance you've been told to just stop thinking so much. But here's the truth. Overthinking, while it can be exhausting, is often a reflection of an incredibly active, intelligent mind. Highly intelligent people naturally examine situations from multiple angles. Their brains aren't satisfied with simple answers. They want to understand the deeper meaning, the consequences, the hidden connections. So they replay events, dissect words, and imagine endless what-if scenarios, not because they want to, but because their brain can't not do it. It's wired to think in layers, and while this constant analysis can lead to anxiety or decision paralysis, it's also what allows intelligent individuals to spot patterns, anticipate outcomes, and solve problems others overlook. You might overthink a job offer, not because you're indecisive, but because you're imagining how it'll affect your long-term goals, your identity, your energy, your relationships, and your future happiness. You might replay a conversation in your head, not because you're insecure, but because you're emotionally intelligent enough to sense subtext, subtle shifts in tone, and things left unsaid. Overthinkers tend to have highly developed empathy. They don't just process their own thoughts, they imagine how others are feeling, how their actions might be perceived, and whether they're being fair, honest, or kind enough. That emotional depth can feel like a burden, but it's actually a strength, one rooted in cognitive and emotional intelligence. Overthinking can also be tied to creativity. Intelligent people often envision multiple outcomes, not just the most likely one. This ability to mentally simulate different realities is part of what makes them great storytellers, strategists, or artists. But it also means their brain is always on narrating, questioning, imagining. That's why overthinkers often feel mentally exhausted. even when they haven't done anything physically demanding. Their mind is constantly in motion, flipping through emotional files, predicting the future, replaying the past. And when there's silence or stillness, that inner monologue only gets louder. Of course, chronic overthinking can be unhealthy. It can lead to procrastination, anxiety, and missed opportunity. But the solution isn't to stop thinking, it's to channel it. Intelligent people who overthink tend to thrive when they have creative outlets. Writing, journaling, art, music, coding, problem solving. Activities where their mental energy has somewhere to go. When that energy gets stuck, it turns inward and becomes rumination. But when it's released, it becomes insight, innovation, and vision. So, if you overthink often, don't be so quick to judge yourself. Your mind is powerful. You notice more, feel more, analyze more, and imagine more than most people do. That's not a defect. That's intelligence in motion. Yes, it can be tiring. Yes, it can spiral sometimes. But with awareness, it can also become one of your greatest tools. Because when managed well, an overthinking mind isn't just a source of stress, it's a sign of deep, layered, powerful thought. Number 6. People often associate intelligence with logic and abstract thinking, but rarely do they realize that sensory sensitivity can also be a powerful sign of a highly intelligent mind. If you find yourself easily overwhelmed by certain noises, bothered by strong smells, or distracted by flickering lights or scratchy fabrics, you're not just too sensitive. You might actually have a more finely tuned nervous system. Many intelligent people process the world more deeply, and that includes their sensory environment. Their brains don't just skim the surface. They notice things. They register the hum of electronics in a quiet room, the subtle change in a person's tone, the distant sound of traffic, or the way a particular fabric feels on their skin. While others can tune these things out, highly intelligent people often can't. And that's not a flaw. It's part of a heightened awareness. This increased sensitivity can lead to sensory overload, especially in loud, chaotic, or unfamiliar environments. Crowded places, harsh lighting, or even strong perfumes might feel overwhelming, but this same trait also allows them to experience beauty more vividly. They might be deeply moved by music, inspired by subtle flavors, or emotionally affected by colors and textures in art or nature. They don't just hear, they listen. They don't just see, they observe. Their senses are more than just input systems. They're tools for perception, reflection, and creativity. This heightened sensory awareness can also fuel intuition, emotional intelligence, and deep empathy. So if you've ever felt too sensitive to your surroundings, stop apologizing for it. That awareness is not a weakness, it's insight, a window into the richness of the world. And more often than not, it's the mark of a mind that isn't just smart, but deeply alive to the experience of being human. Number 5. If you find yourself lying awake at night, unable to sleep because your mind won't stop racing, just know, you're not alone, and more importantly, you're not broken. This is something many highly intelligent people experience regularly. Their brains don't have an off switch. Even when the body is exhausted, the mind keeps going, asking questions, exploring ideas, replaying conversations, analyzing the day, and sometimes even inventing entire new theories or storylines at 3 in the morning. This mental activity isn't random. It's the natural result of a brain that's always seeking, always solving, always stretching itself. And ironically, the silence of night can make it worse, because when everything else calms down, no distractions, no tasks, no conversations, those unprocessed thoughts finally surface. And for intelligent people, that usually means a lot of thoughts, all at once. That's also why many smart individuals tend to be night owls. It's not laziness or bad time management, it's mental momentum. Their creativity comes alive when the rest of the world is asleep. The quiet gives them space to think freely, without interruption. They may suddenly feel inspired to write, learn, create, or reflect. And though this can be energizing, it also comes at a cost: fatigue, inconsistent sleep schedules, and frustration over why rest doesn't come easily. But the truth is, this restless mind is just part of the package. It doesn't mean you're failing. It means your brain is active. A little too active, perhaps, but beautifully so. So the next time you can't sleep, try not to curse your thoughts. Try to listen to them. Maybe, just maybe, your insomnia isn't a problem. It's a signal of a mind that refuses to stop growing, even when the rest of the world is asleep. Number 4. Talking to yourself is something most people dismiss as weird or even a little crazy. But in reality, it can be one of the clearest signs of high intelligence. If you find yourself thinking out loud, rehearsing conversations, or narrating your thoughts throughout the day, it's not because you're losing your grip on reality. It's actually your brain's way of processing information more effectively. Intelligent people often have fast, complex thoughts, so speaking them out loud helps them slow things down, organize their ideas, and bring clarity to internal chaos. It's like verbalizing thought is their way of editing in real time. This isn't about being dramatic. It's about enhancing memory, sharpening focus, and managing emotion. In fact, research shows that talking to yourself can improve problem solving and boost self-regulation. When highly intelligent people face difficult decisions or abstract ideas, they use self-talk to break things down step by step. They're not seeking answers outside themselves. They're reasoning through complexity internally, using their own voice as a guide. Sometimes the self-talk is silent, just a running dialogue in the background. Other times it's out loud. They might walk around a room processing ideas, or talk to themselves while planning, organizing, or even calming down from emotional stress. It helps them stay grounded. And when they're alone, this habit often becomes more pronounced, not because they're lonely, but because solitude gives their thoughts space to breathe. So if you catch yourself having full-blown conversations in your head, or even out loud, don't be embarrassed. It's not a flaw. It's a powerful tool that many intelligent minds use to structure thoughts, manage emotions, and navigate life with greater clarity. Because sometimes, the smartest conversations you'll ever have are the ones you have with yourself. Number 3. For highly intelligent people, learning isn't something they're forced to do. It's something they're drawn to, instinctively. While most people only learn when there's a reward, like passing a test, getting a promotion, or impressing someone, those with true intellectual curiosity are different. They'll spend hours reading obscure articles, watching long-form documentaries, or diving deep into topics most would find pointless, and they do it without any external push. There's no one watching, no prize at the end. It's just pure curiosity, a hunger to understand the world more deeply. They're the ones who suddenly become fascinated by ancient history after watching a single scene in a movie, or who read about behavioral economics just to understand why people make irrational decisions. They ask questions like, "Why do we do this?" or "What would happen if we did it differently?" Their minds are wired to seek out connections, explore patterns, and uncover meaning, even in the most ordinary things. And what's truly remarkable is that intelligent people are usually the first to admit how little they actually know. They aren't know-it-alls. They're aware of how vast the unknown really is. This humility becomes fuel for more learning. The more they discover, the more they realize there's still so much they don't understand. That's what makes their curiosity endless. It's not about proving anything. It's about growing. Quietly, continuously. They learn because it gives them joy, clarity, and perspective, not because anyone's handing them a reward. So if you often find yourself researching things for no reason, following your curiosity into strange corners of the internet, or studying topics that no one else around you seems to care about, that might not be a waste of time. It might be a sign of real intelligence. Number 2. Reading is often romanticized as a hobby for the studious, the intellectuals, or the academically inclined. But for highly intelligent individuals, reading isn't a chore or a performance. It's a natural extension of who they are. It's not about trying to appear smart. It's about satisfying a deep, constant hunger for understanding. Intelligent minds are endlessly curious. They don't just want to know what something is, they want to know why, how, and what else. And reading, in its many forms, becomes a doorway into different worlds, different minds, and different possibilities. These individuals often don't restrict themselves to one genre or format. One day, it might be a psychology book on human behavior. The next, a dystopian sci-fi novel that explores society through metaphor. They're not just absorbing facts, they're training their minds to think more creatively, more critically, and more empathetically. What surprises many people is that intelligent readers don't always gravitate toward heavy academic material. In fact, many prefer fiction, because they understand that stories teach just as much as science. A well-written novel reveals human nature. It challenges the reader's emotional intelligence, perspective-taking, and ability to imagine scenarios beyond their personal experience. Reading fantasy isn't a form of escape. It's a mental gym. It strengthens imagination, nurtures abstract thinking, and deepens a reader's understanding of culture, motivation, and morality. That's the beauty of an intelligent mind. It sees value in things others overlook. A children's book might spark philosophical insight. A poem might inspire a psychological breakthrough. For smart readers, nothing is ever just entertainment. Every page is an opportunity to learn, reflect, or transform. You might also notice that many highly intelligent people don't just read one book at a time, they often juggle several. A biography for insight, a fiction novel for relaxation, a historical book to challenge perspective, and maybe even a spiritual or philosophical text for personal growth. This isn't about multitasking for the sake of productivity. It's about feeding different parts of the brain, satisfying different curiosities, and honoring the layered complexity of their inner world. They may not even finish every book. They don't read to check off boxes. They read to explore, and sometimes exploration is more important than completion. And perhaps most importantly, intelligent people often read in solitude, not because they dislike others, but because reading gives them a sacred space to connect deeply with themselves. It's a quiet, introspective act in a noisy world. The silence between pages offers more than information. It offers presence, reflection, a safe place to think, feel, and evolve without judgment. For a highly intelligent person, reading becomes more than a habit. It becomes a lifestyle, a coping tool, a sanctuary, and sometimes even a lifeline during difficult times. So, if you're someone who reads not for show, not for trend, but out of a sincere need to know, understand, and imagine, you're not just well-read, you're wired for intelligence. Because the mark of a truly brilliant mind isn't just what it knows, it's how endlessly it seeks to know more. Number 1. Overthinking is often viewed as a flaw, something to be fixed or tamed. People are told, "You think too much," as if that's inherently a bad thing. But what most don't understand is that in many cases, especially among highly intelligent individuals, overthinking isn't just mental noise, it's purposeful processing. For those with advanced cognitive abilities, the mind doesn't just think. It dissects, explores, and reconstructs. It constantly turns things over, seeking depth where others might settle for the surface. This habit of mental exploration, while sometimes overwhelming, is actually a sign of intelligence working in real time. Smart individuals often replay conversations in their heads, not because they're stuck in the past, but because they're trying to understand what was really said, what was meant, what wasn't spoken aloud, and what patterns might be unfolding. Their minds naturally seek nuance, complexity, and hidden meaning. They can't help but ask "what if" in every scenario. What if this happens? What if that doesn't? And what if? It's not paranoia, it's preparation. They mentally simulate possibilities, so they're rarely surprised when life throws curveballs. It's a subtle form of problem solving, a constant rehearsal of outcomes that helps them stay 2 steps ahead. While others may call it anxiety, in truth, it's a kind of psychological forecasting. These individuals are not just reacting to life, they're anticipating it, constructing a mental map of cause and effect. The downside? It can be exhausting. Their brain doesn't always come with an off switch, and that can lead to sleepless nights and mental fatigue. But the upside is clear. They are often the ones people turn to when things fall apart, because they've already considered the worst-case scenarios and quietly built strategies for navigating them. Overthinkers who possess high intelligence are also masterful problem solvers. They rarely accept the first answer that comes to mind. Instead, they ask deeper questions. Why does this problem exist in the first place? What's the root cause? What's the most efficient path forward that others might be overlooking? They don't just want solutions. They want elegant solutions. Ones that minimize waste, maximize outcomes, and account for both logic and emotion. This level of thinking makes them incredibly resourceful. They see patterns others miss. They make connections between ideas that don't seem related at first, and in doing so, they often come up with creative, unconventional insights that surprise even themselves. So, if you're someone who finds yourself constantly caught in loops of thought, rethinking, analyzing, imagining all possibilities, you might not be broken, you might be brilliant. Your brain may simply be operating at a depth that others aren't tuned into, and while it's important to learn how to rest that overactive mind, it's also important to honor it, because that very tendency to think deeply and widely could be the quiet mark of a high-performing, highly intelligent mind.